Hello everyone, I am Shada Sharaf and welcome to Sada Learning Hub. Today's session we are going to learn Java, JSP Standard Java Bean components. If you see here, I'm going to discuss about some standard action tags. In the previous three videos, I am discussed some of the standard action tags. Now, the standard action tag gives you some predefined functionality to that particular tag. Now, whenever you are using that standard action tag, it will be automatically executes that predefined logic. In this video, I am going to discuss about three standard action tags. Those are JSP colon useBean, JSP colon setProperty, and JSP colon getProperty. I am going to discuss about these three standard action tags. Now, in a web application, if some business logic is required in a multiple JSP pages, then it then to make that business logic as reusable, it will be separated from the JSP pages to the Java classes. This Java classes is called bean classes. For example, in the web application, some business logic is required means if for example if you are using a student class, the student class you are using into the multiple JSP pages. Now you are going to separate that student class into from the JSP page. Now that student class is called a bean class, means you are separated from JSP page, but this class we are going to use into a different JSP pages. Now, a bean is nothing but it is a reusable software component. Means whatever the code we are putting into that particular class, we are using into the different places. That type of beans are called reusable software components. Reusable components. With the JSP to Java Bean communication, we can separate the presentation logic and the business logic of a JSP page. With the separation of one developer can concentrating on the JSP presentation and the another can be developed a business logic, it means division of work is possible. For example, you are doing a presentation logic in the same time in the we need a Java code into your presentation logic JSP page. In that situation, the who is the person is doing that person must and should need to knowledge on a presentation logic and as well as a Java logic. Now, if you divide the code, we can do it. If you are familiar with the presentation, we can go with the presentation logic. We can concentrating on the presentation logic. Who is going to know the Java? He's that person is going to concentrating on the business logic. Now, the division of work is also possible by using the reusable components. In Java, Java beans are actually two types. There is a two types of Java beans are available. Those are called GUI bean and the CUI bean. GUI beans are a part of a bean development kit and these are outdated. If you see the GUI beans, these are the part of a bean development kit. These are outdated. We use the CUI bean Java beans. CUI beans means Java beans is an applications to implement a business logic. These are the beans we can use the is to implement the business logic. Now, now here I'm going to discuss one question is what is a Java bean? See here, a Java bean is a class which follows the some of the principles. Those are a class must be a public. Now, nothing but a Java bean is nothing but a class. It's a class, but that class need to follow the some principles. Those are a class must be a public. Means Java bean must be a public. Class must contain a public zero argument constructor. Means a default constructor. A class must contains whatever the bean is, that must contain a public zero argument constructor. Means public, it's not a default, public zero argument constructor. Class should not extended or implemented any other framework or any technology related classes or interfaces. Now, whatever you are creating the Java bean, if you want to access a Java bean, that class must be a public, and it must be a public zero argument constructor, and as well as it doesn't extend or implement from any other framework or any other Java related technologies. That is called Java beans. Now, what is about Pozo class? See here, there is a two classes are there. One is the Java bean and the second one is the Pozo class. A Java bean must a Java bean is nothing but a class, but it should needs to follow the three principles. It must be a public class and it must be a public zero argument constructor, and it doesn't extend or implement or any other framework or Java related technologies. Now, what about the Pozo class? See here, a Pozo class that doesn't bind it to any other technology or a framework is a Pozo class. A Pozo class, a Java class that doesn't binds to any technology or a framework is a Pozo class. A Pozo class is nothing but a class also. But it needs to follow the one principle. That principle is called it doesn't or implement any other technology or framework. Means it doesn't bind any technology or any other framework. See here, I am discussed the two things, that is called, one is called Java Bean and second one is called Pozo class. Again I am going to discuss, again I am going to tell, Java Bean is nothing but a class, Java class. It needs to follow the three principles. The first principle is it must a public class and it must contains public zero argument constructor, and it doesn't extend or implement from any other Java related technology or framework. But coming to the Pozo class, a Pozo class it need nothing but a Java class, but it should follow the one only one principle. It doesn't bind any technology or a framework in a Pozo class. Now, what is the difference between a Java bean and a Pozo class? A Java must be a public and it should contain a public zero argument constructor. A Pozo class may or may not be a public and it may or may not be a zero argument constructor. Now, every Java bean is a Pozo class. See here, every Java bean is a Pozo class. Why? Because a Pozo class needs to follow the only one principle. What that principle is, it doesn't bind any other technology or any other framework. Definitely Java Bean is going to follow, needs to follow that principle. That's why a Java Bean is a Pozo class. But every Pozo class is not a Java Bean. Why? Because every Pozo class is not a Java Bean. Why? Because a Pozo class need not to follow a public class and a public zero argument constructor. But a Java bean must and should it needs to follow a public class and a public zero argument constructor. That's why every Pozo class is not a Java bean. Now I'm going to discuss about the three standard action tags. Those are called useBean, setProperty, and getProperty. Now I'm going to discuss about useBean. A useBean tag is used to create an object of a Java Bean class in a JSP page. Now, the useBean is used to create a Java Bean object. If you see here, if you want to create a useBean, we need to pass the three parameters, that is called useBean ID attribute, class attribute, and scope attribute. In a JSP to Java Bean communication, a JSP is a public file and a Java Bean is a private file because Java Bean is stored in the classes folder. See, we need to remember one thing. We are placing a JSP pages into the public folder and a Java Beans into the SRC folder. Why? Because SRC public folder means it can be accessible to everyone. Means the browser need to access the JSP. That's why we are putting into the public folder. Java Bean classes no need to access the browser, no need to access the anyone. We need to access only internal communication, internal classes. That's why we are putting into the SRC folder. See here, a JSP to Java Beans communication. JSP is a public file and a Java Bean is a private file because a Java Bean is stored into the classes folder. A private files of a web applications cannot be directly accessed into the public files. To make it as an accessible, we need to put a Java Bean class in a package. Now, into the private files, the JSP is not possible to access. That's why we need to put your Java beans into the packages. Otherwise, it's not possible to interact with the Java beans to the JSP colon useBean tags. If you want to use the if you want to use the Java beans by using JSP colon useBean tags, must and should your Java beans needs to put it into the packages. Next, I am going to discuss about JSP colon setProperty. If you see, this action tag is used to set the values to the Java Bean class properties by calling the setter methods. JSP colon set property tag must be used to inside of a JSP colon useBean tag. The value of the ID attribute of a JSP colon useBean tag and the value of the name attribute of JSP colon set property tag should be the same. For example, you are created the Java Bean object by using the JSP colon useBean tag. Now we need to set the values into that particular Java Bean by using JSP colon set property. If you want to set the values into the Java Bean properties, we need to must and should use the JSP colon set property. Then only it's possible to set the values into your Java Bean into the JSP pages. But here the set property must and should put inside the JSP colon useBean tag. It's not possible to put it into the outside of JSP colon useBean. In the above JSP page, we are setting the static values to the bean class properties. If the JSP page wants to set the dynamic values to the bean class properties, then the JSP should accept the input values from the HTML page. If a request parameter names and the bean classes properties names are method, then the JSP page, if you want to write the property, mention star in the JSP colon set property tag. That is the way. Next, I am going to discuss. I can explain you. Don't worry, guys. I can explain you the example how we can use the use property, how you can use the set property and get property. Now, just I'm going to explain what about the tags. Now, JSP colon get property tag. This tag is used to read the values from the bean class properties by calling the getter method. The property is the tag has only two attributes names and the property. This tag should be used at the outside of the JSP colon useBean tag. We cannot write the property star into the JSP colon get property. See here, the get property means the name itself is saying to get the values from the Java Bean. If you want to use the JSP colon get property, we can use the must and should outside of the useBean tag. It's not possible to use to inside the JSP colon useBean tag. See here, finally there is the Java Bean components. There is a three components means there is a three standard actions regarding to the Java Bean components, those are the JSP colon useBean. It is used to create a Java Bean object. JSP colon set property. It is used to set the values into the Java Bean and it must and should used within the JSP colon useBean tag, and the final tag is JSP colon get property. The JSP colon get property is used to retrieve the values from the Java Bean, and it must and should use it in the outside of the JSP colon useBean property. Now I can show one example on this how we can use the set property and get properties. See here, I'm creating one small example on this. If you see here, now this is the login bean. Now I'm creating a one bean. It must be a public class. If you see here, it must be a public class, and it must be a zero argument constructor. Source generate. See here, it must be a zero argument constructor, and it doesn't implement or extending from any other framework. Now, if you want to access this Java bean, I am putting it into the, if you want to access this Java bean, I am putting it into the login package. If you go with inside, I am creating a two pages that is called loginbean.html and loginbean.jsp. If you see here in this login.html, I'm entering enter username and the password. I'm clicking on the submit button. Whenever you're clicking on the submit button, automatically it sends into the loginbean.jsp. In this loginbean.jsp, I'm going to use JSP colon useBean tag. Whenever we are creating a JSP colon useBean tag, automatically it creates a Java Bean object. See here, object 1 is a Java Bean object. I'm creating login bean. It is available in that package. This is the package name and this is the class name. I'm setting the properties, whatever the properties are there, I'm setting all these properties into that Java Bean. Now see here, I'm setting all those things at here. After that, finally, I am retrieving and displaying at the here by using the JSP colon get property. In this get property, I'm using a uname as an it is available in the object obj1 the property uname. It is available in the obj1 object the name pwd. See here, this is the Java Bean component. In this Java Bean component, it is satisfying the all conditions. Why? Because it is a public class and it has a public private constructor and it doesn't implement or extend from any other technology. Now, my JSP page, it's going to use the Java Bean. That's why I'm putting into the package called login package. Now I'm creating it here one HTML page. I'm reading the input values from the username and password. I am sending into the login.jsp. After sending the login.jsp, whatever the values are getting from the loginbean.html, I am putting it into the I'm creating one object of a login bean class and I'm putting in the values into that particular object. After putting the values into that particular login bean object, finally I am displaying to the screen username and password. Now I can show it you running on this example how it is going to work. I don't want this plugin example. Finish. See here my server is already started. Now I'm going to doing the restart. See here. Now my login bean.html page is opened. Here URL contains there is no login bean.html. Why? Because I'm putting into the web.xml. I will show you. I'm putting into the web.xml. Let's say see here login bin.html. That's why it automatically opens at here. Now I'm entering the username at here. So the learning hub. I'm putting the password is something. I'm putting the login. See here, whatever I'm putting at the here, automatically it will be displayed in the here. Username is Sada Learning Hub and the password I am entering is the Sada. Why? Because whatever I'm entering into the login bin.html, it will be forwarded into the login bin.jsp. In this login bin.jsp, I'm using the JSP colon use bin tag and JSP colon set property and JSP colon get property. In this JSP colon use bean tag, I'm creating a one bean object for the login bean class, Java bean class, and put it whatever I'm getting from the login bean.html. I'm inject into the values into the login bean object. After that, I'm printing those values into the page. Whatever I'm injecting the values, I'm using the get property, I'm displaying into the browser. See here, these are the values I'm entered from the uh, login bin.html. Finally, my responses will be displaying in the like this. This is the use of JSP colon use bin and set property and get property. The mostly used to separate the business logic from the presentation logic.
Thank you so much watching this video. Hope this lesson helpful to you. Keep watching our lessons. Keep writing to us. Do not forget subscribe our channel Sada Learning Hub because we have many sessions that would help you to develop our skills and I will be back soon. Till then you take care. Bye bye.